Well, there's that hurricane that took place, and there's another one, man. This one's Category 5, folks. Pray for Florida, dude. It's gonna just wallop them. It's gonna T-bone them. It's gonna be bad. So FEMA had this webinar, and this webinar says agencies moving towards LGBTQIA plus elemental P alphabet soup. Disaster equity over helping most people. People don't see that this is just crippling companies. It's crippling and hurting people. This whole idea of DEI. I'm all for diversity, but diversity of thought. I don't care about your skin color. I don't care about your upbringing. I care about the thoughts and things that you bring to the table to make this country better. I've always said it. It's so odd to me that we keep talking about race. It makes sense from the Democrat side of things because they've always been about race. They're the party of Klan. They're the party of slavery. They're the party of anti-civil rights. They're the party of creating that metaphorical plantation for black people. They've always been that party, which has always floored me that people continue to vote when you're a minority for the party that actually enslaved your people and put burning crosses on the lawns. So this is disastrous policy here. There's a clip of this webinar, and this is where FEMA puts their priorities, you guys. People are dying, by the way, right now.
Sparked a few things in my mind, thinking about preparedness and how you said, LGBTQIA people and people who have been disadvantaged already are struggling. They already have their own things to deal with. So you add a disaster on top of that. It's just compounding on itself. And I think that is maybe the why we're having these discussions, is because it isn't being talked about. It isn't being socialized. We're not paying attention to this community. Thank you so much. Maggie.
Thank you. There are a couple of things that are intersecting in my mind here. One of them is the culture of emergency management as an organization, as an industry in the United States specifically, not abroad. This has, and my cat sometimes does this, she gets really loud suddenly, so you'll have to just allow for the little meowing in the background. The shift that we're seeing right now is a shift in emergency management from utilitarian principles where everything is designed for the greatest good for the greatest amount of people to disaster equity. But we have to do more, right? And so this topic is intersecting, I think, with a number of other topics where we have to look at policies and understand to what extent they have disadvantaged communities that had less assets, communities that had pre-existing vulnerabilities in accessing disaster-related recovery supports.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm cutting it there. I can't do it anymore. Jesus. Well, there's people that didn't get as much aid as somebody else. Not everything's perfect. Well, we got to create equity. Oh, God. I'm sorry I subjected you guys to that. These are the people running it. That's what FEMA wants to spend their time on. Talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion, DEI stuff. Well, we need to make sure everybody gets equal amount of water bottles and toilet paper. Like, they don't live in reality. Does that sound nice? Yes, it sounds nice that everybody's treated equally, you know what I mean? And you would hope that nobody does any shenanigans based on race or anything like that. But that's just not reality, unfortunately. By the way, somebody could sit there and give one person a case of water, and then all they had left was half a case of water because they handed some out on their trip maybe to the next home or whatever, next block. And then this person or family gets half a case of water. And to them, they'll lose their ish because, like, well, you gave the minority family half a case of water, you racist, you bigot, you didn't sit there and look at your biases. You don't know about it? Well, you're racist. You just didn't know about it, right? You're just going like, lady, I just had half a case left. I just handed out a bunch of water to a bunch of people that were in need on my way to this neighborhood. I just had half a case. Oh, you freaking bigot. You should have thought of that beforehand. Equity, inclusion. This is how these people think. What the hell's wrong with them? God, shouldn't you just be excited you got some freaking water? Well, I'm about to subject you to some other stuff. Because we got The View. Holy lordy, we got a lot of clips here from The View really quick. Wow. So The View teased Kamala up. The softball questions. And it's amazing that they teed her up, you guys, like T-ball. It wasn't even like there was a pitcher, right? And the ball's just sitting there, Kamala. And she couldn't even hit it. She can't even hit it. So here's some clips of The View. She goes on there. And the remarkable thing is, Whoopi Goldberg, who it just floors me that she's even taken seriously and has a job. She sits there and introduces Kamala Harris as the next president, I kid you not, of the United States. Here we go.
To go until election. So we are thrilled that joining us right now for her very first talk show appearance and live TV interview appearance since accepting the Democratic presidential nomination. Please welcome back the next president of the United States.
We're not done. She sits there and she claims one of the first people she called was her pastor. And she said, I need to talk to God. A lady that's 4 full-blown killing babies. And as she's on The View right now, she was doing these late night shows. Yeah, everyone's throwing up in the chat. I'm right there with you. But we need to flag this stuff. We need to sit there and make sure, because it's a moment in history to see this knucklehead out here campaigning on The View, the late nights. People are under like 15 feet of mud. Their houses are gone. Kamala, you could sit there and campaign. It looks better, by the way. You going to North Carolina, Georgia, all these places and clean up. Maybe get some shots of you picking up some wood, getting your hands a little dirty, put on some jeans for once. You know what I mean? Like that's campaigning. That is what looks good. You don't need to.
For a while. Meanwhile, I went back into the room where the girls were, and I'm like, go get your father. Because I knew he'd be up somewhere. And so we laughed afterwards. Nick is their father. We laughed that Amara, the elder one, was kind of like Paul Revere, and Leela, the younger one, was Paul Revere's horse.
That's a wonderful story.
But, you know, so there were these, it was a real split screen, obviously. And then the rest of the day was, I mean, it was surreal. I'll tell you honestly, one of the first people I called was my pastor. I mean, I needed to talk to God, you know, and to pray.
Yeah.
It was, I understood in real time what was happening, and obviously then it really set in the hours and days to come. But
So they think they're hitting her with the hardball questions here. The View thinks that they're just really teeing up the stuff, you know what I mean? Just the 105-mile-an-hour pitch. You let me know.
Happy to see you here
thank
today.
you, thank you.
for
I'm
coming.
glad to be with you.
As Vice President, you've worked very closely with President Biden for almost 4 years. He was here on our show,
Yeah.
and he said there wasn't a single thing that he did that you could not do. What do you think would be the biggest specific difference between your presidency and a Biden presidency?
Well, we're obviously two different people, and we have a lot of shared life experiences. For example, the way we feel about our family and our parents and so on. But we're also different people, and I will bring those sensibilities to how I lead.
What an intellectual. Yeah, this is the person that's going to solve your problems that can't answer a 5th grade question. The word that was in the question, Kamala, was specific. Can you be specific on how you're going to be different than the guy that you called a racist during the campaign? Y'all remember that? How she sat there and called the dude racist for like weeks, and then she decided that she wanted to sit there and be in the White House with a racist, I guess. That's how they think. Well, we're different people. We have different experiences, and those different experiences I'm going to bring to the campaign. What the hell does that even mean? What the hell? So again, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Joe Biden after the last 4 years? Democrats, listen.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. Yeah. The work that we have done, for example, capping the cost of insulin at $35 a month for our seniors is something I care deeply about allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices.
Yes.
And bring the cost of prescription medication down for seniors, but my intention is to expand that for all Americans. Mm-hmm. The work we have done to invest in American industries, whether it be in terms of manufacturing and creating almost 800,000 new jobs around manufacturing, those were all a shared priority.
So you hear that, Democrats? She's not going to do anything different. Okay? So all this talk about, well, immigration's our number one issue, the economy, inflation, I can't pay my bills, electricity. If those are truly your issues, she just sat there and has been saying it's not going to be any different. They're going to just rebrand Bidenomics, which is what you're feeling right now, to Kamalanomics. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. And you would think Ana Navarro, as somebody that's well, she's a rhino, or claims to be a Republican or conservative. I mean, they say a lot of crazy-ass things on The View. I can't even keep track anymore. Well, Ana Navarro makes a show of saying Kamala, despite Whoopi refusing to say Trump's name, tease her up to go after Trump.
Let's Kamala, and I'm calling you Kamala because for all of those who are mispronouncing it, I want you all to know how to say it. There you go. But let's talk about something you would do different from Donald Trump. Right now, there is a monster storm barreling towards my state of Florida, a place that's still reeling from Hurricane Helene. Trump is lying, claiming that the Biden administration is intentionally withholding aid from the areas where Republicans live and that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants. Ironically, that is something he did in 2019. What do you think the effect of these lies are, and why is he doing this?
Well, it's profound, and it is the height of irresponsibility and, frankly, callousness.
Dude, you want... We don't have enough time. You want to talk about irresponsibility of you allowing 10.5 plus million illegal immigrants into the country, Kamala? You want to talk about irresponsibility of you sitting there pumping the economy full of trillions of dollars and not expecting any ramifications? You want to talk about irresponsibility of pulling out of Afghanistan as a botched withdrawal where people were flying down from the skies, people blew up, our soldiers sat there and died? You want to talk about irresponsibility of sitting there and making sure that other people that immigrated here illegally are taken care of first than actual Americans? You want to talk about irresponsibility and callousness? The fact that you kicked out our veterans out of hotel rooms and replaced them with illegal immigrants that were from Iraq and Afghanistan? You want to talk about irresponsibility that you're giving the Taliban $87 million every 2 weeks? You want to talk about irresponsibility and callousness? The fact that you're giving the Iranians $10 billion when they're blowing up our merchant vessels in the Red Sea and everywhere else and going after our military installations? You want to talk about callousness? How about the fact that you won't address a single damn issue that the American people care about? Let's talk about callousness, the fact that you are sitting there in The View's nice studio while people are underwater.